Welcome back everyone to Data Science for Everyone. Today we're going to be looking at adding some labels to pie charts. So let's get started. So last time we created up this nice visualization here we see on the right, or left, I'm sorry. And what we see here, again, this is the code that we have over here, but it does this nice little pie chart visualization. And it has a nice little label here telling us what countries they are. And then it has this float over telling us, for example, how many medals, Olympic medals in total that a country has from 2014 Olympics. Now, what we'd like to do, and this is based on a request that we've had for a video, is to have some text on top of each of these slices of the pie, for example, to maybe show their percentage of the total. Okay, and so this is actually a little bit of a hacky way to do this. Okay, because since about 2 years ago or so, Bokeh has not had this functionality on here, okay? They've kind of gotten rid of it from the wedge and the donut plots, and we're wanting to actually go on and add that functionality back in. Now, overall, I would genuinely say just stick with the templates that Bokeh has, because again, I find that this is quite nice, and you can do whatever calculation you want for this side number in here. But again, as this is a request, we're going to go on and do it just to see how it is done, because it is kind of a fun little additive that we can do. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is add in a couple imports in here. Okay, so I'm going to give it some space, and we want from bokeh.models, we're going to import our label set. We want also a column data source in here. Now, this is the first line that we're going to do in here, and this is going to allow us to make our label sets. And again, when we're making this label set, we're going to need this column data source as well. Then the next thing that we're going to want to do is to go on and add in a couple values in here. So let's go down to the filtering, and let me clean up a little bit here. So let's go on and add some variables, okay? So first off, we're going to need some values, and I'm just going to save this in a variable here so that, or maybe we'll just call it value itself, because it's going to be a little bit easier for us to access later on. And this is just going to be the medals value, okay? So dot values, and again, this is just some ease of typing, okay? Because I'm going to have to type things out multiple times here. And so let's create up first a cumulative. Let's call it a cumulative angle here, okay? Because we have to actually calculate up. What we're going to be doing, we're going to actually have to do a little bit of math, okay, to calculate up all of the angles inside of these so that we can actually say where we want this label to be headed at. So let's go on and say something like we want the sum of value, and we want all of the values up into the value that we're going to be looking at, okay? Then we're going to want to subtract out, we want minus here the item divided by 2, so we want half of the item, and again we want to divide by the sum of the value multiplied by 2 by pi, and then we also want to do for I value in, or sorry, item in enumerate value. And let's double check that we have everything the way that we want in here. So we have the sum. We want to add that parenthesis in right here. Okay, so it's this whole thing here. So the sum of the values all the way up into I plus 1 minus item divided by 2. And this is going to give us the cumulative angle for each of these. And then the next thing that we're going to want to do in here is to go on and calculate up the percentage. Okay, so again, we want kind of the percentage of each slice of this particular pie. And again, it would be for only the values that we have in our set. Okay, it's not including, again, this is a subset of those that have 8 or more, or those that have greater than 8, sorry, greater than 8, we can see right here. So let's go on and complete this. So df percentage, and then we're going to calculate this up. So we'll do df metals dot apply, and then we'll do lambda x such that x divided by our df metals, whoops, and it keeps, and this is x, sorry, df metals dot sum, and then we want to multiply by 100, okay, to get the percentage. Then the next thing we want to do is we're going to go on and create up some nice label. Let's make this to be a list, and here we're going to use the old school formatting for now, just because I'm comfortable with it. And we want in here to add in a %, dot format. And what do we want in here? We'll have some value, and we want this to be for val in df of our percentage. And I think that should do it for us. Okay, now the next thing that we want to do is we actually have to calculate up the cosine. We're also going to have to calculate up our sine. All right, and so this is going to help us be able to find where inside of each slice we want this to be. So this will be mp dot cosine of our df of our cumulative sum, or cumulative angle, sorry. And then let's go on and multiply this by something like 0.25. And then we'll do the same thing, and I'm going to just actually copy this instead of doing anything else. And then let's go on and change this to sine. And sine. All right, so now this should, again, this will calculate everything up, but it is definitely not what we want fully, okay? Because it's not going to actually put anything in here right now. So again, because if I go in and run this, you can see here nothing has changed. We actually need to apply what we have changed. And so let's go on and add in those not hover variables, but those labels. So let's go on and go maybe, and let's put this below the wedge. So, and before we had that column sources, and this is where that's going to come in handy. So let's go on and create up the column data source, and we're going to give it our data is equal to df. So again, this is the new updated data because we've added in a couple variables in there. And then the next thing we're going to do is create up our labels here, and this will be a label set. And then we want x is equal to the cosine, y is equal to the sine. Our text is going to be, we said label, and then our y offset is going to be 0. And let's go on and say our text font size here, I'm going to make it 10-point font for now, and we will maybe play with it. Our text color here is going to be black, and then we want our source to equal our new source, and then we'll text align in here. Let's make it center. Okay, and so then they should be relatively centered on here, and they're going to be coming, you're technically counting it up through the circle. And so let's add, we need to add a layer here, p.add layout here, and we want our labels. So let's take a look and see if this does what we want it to do. All right, and so notice we've put those in, but maybe it's a little bit off here. This little 7% is kind of not quite where we want it. So if we want to move it around, we can actually go through, and all you're going to want to do is play with these little numbers here. So maybe you want this to be something like, I don't know, let's change it just a little bit here. 0.3. Run that. And that moves them out a little bit. So then you want, if they're both moving at 0.3, so let's change this one to 0.2. And let's see how that moves. And again, you can just see how we're moving it to see. Now notice that squashes everything down. That is not what we want. Okay, so let's go back and let's put this back at maybe, so let's add in 3, 5. And again, this is just me playing around with everything just to see what it makes. And so this looks okay for now. Again, you guys, whenever you're doing your own, you're going to have to make it look however you want. Now the last thing I really kind of want to do, and this has always bugged me since the last time, is you see that we have this little outlined border here. We're going to go on and turn that off. Okay, because again, it's honestly, it's just annoying me a little bit. So let's go and do outline here, line, color, and then we're going to set that to none. Okay, and that should give us what we want here. Boop. Okay, so again, now you can see here that this gives us just one more little bit of additional flavor to this. Now, again, I'm usually against using pie charts in any shape or form, but again, I also understand that a lot of you do need them in your day-to-day work. So if you guys like this, please comment, subscribe, and hit that like button, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.